vous allez observer recording là. Enable sound. Correct là. Bon, nightlife peut faire ce trade. Si tu fais ça.
Il fait une fake out là. Ah oui. Ouais, s'il fait une fake out, vous pouvez lui monter.
Ok, là. Good morning, everybody.
Non, de 3, 2, 1. Whoop.
Vamos cá, vamos lá, vamos lá, vamos lá, que vai direita. Mas aí,
3, 2, 1. Na pila, okay na?
logo lá,
Na pila, okay ko to.
logo.
Morning, everyone.
Tu fais. Puis tu t'es ali. Mais pourquoi?
Non, t'as ce typique. Tu me manques ce typique aussi.
Eh bien, ici, là, il n'y a pas plus d'autre qui fait, hein.
Maybe, Nika, what le Power speaking?
Power live.
What the fuck?
Allez, Navin.
Oh man, ça m'a.
Yep.
Newspaper.
Là.
Comment je couvrirai celle-là toujours là? Objet, toi.
Maintenant, SL to entry right now.
Allez. Joli.
Là.
Ouais, méchant.
TP, ouais.
TP, ça va.
TPH.
Bravo.
TP.
Ouais.
Bravo, Nightlife.
Bravo.
Ouais, joli.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, tu es très couillon. Eh ouais, t'es malade, petit. T'es malade. Joli.
Everyone, once again, please welcome past chair of the club, Deborah Cafaro.
J'y fais.
Ah, c'était là, ça a commencé là-bas.
Ça avait commencé ici. Très, ouais, méchant. Gascuya, femme. Gascuya, du coup, j'ai très fini.
Ouais. W in the chat.
W in the chat, everybody. Congratulations. Hey, Nightlife, t'es malade. Faux.
Regarde.
Faux.
C'est le reste du bureau que je fais.
Ça veut dire 1:1. Mais si on met des loups. What? Ça veut dire, si tu calcules le gold and pips, donne-toi $10. 10 fois 528. Combien fait-toi?
5 000 qui te 16.
Mais il met des loups. 10 000, non? Même bien déjà la live? 10 000?
Il avait fait tout là.
Quoi tu envoyé?
WhatsApp. On avait le WhatsApp.
Ah, ok, mon comprend. Ok. Congratulations, bro. Ouais, respect.
2600.
Respect. T'es malade.
Ouais, tranquille.
Regarde le recording. Eh, ouais, bro. Il va dire que j'ai tout ramassé, ça, le ramassé, il a pas caché. Eh, joli, c'est moi. Joli. Bravo.
Attends, est-ce qu'il bouge là? Ah, c'est à l'IP que j'ai, non?
Pour elle.
Ouais.
T'as nous guetté.
Ah, c'est à l'IP comment ce que j'ai? Ah, là, si NBC là.
En fait, nous avons fini de remplir. Il y a sur les rapport là, aussi. C'est libre que j'ai pour expliquer. Maintenant, quand les causes expliquent, on va connaître pas une réaction de moi aussi.
The President and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, a renowned economist, and our fellow ECC member. Austin, take it away.
Thank
you.
Hey, mon cher, maman.
Thanks, Debbie. It is a real pleasure and delight. Should I move that for you? Introduce our guests, two of the firmament of economics and finance. First, let me introduce the moderator, my friend and 40. He's since over age 40, but he was the inaugural winner. He is a member of the group of 30. And he was the 23rd governor of the Reserve Bank of India, and before that, chief economist and director of research at the International Monetary Fund. You probably know him as a regular contributor to the Financial Times. He speaks extensively on economic and financial issues. Please give a warm welcome to Professor Rajan. And then our featured speaker will be Jerome Powell, the 16th chair of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. As head of the U.S. Central Bank, as you know, Chair Powell plays a crucial role in the country's monetary policy, oversees major financial institutions, and maintains economic and financial stability in this country. He was first appointed as a board member of the Fed by President Obama in 2012. He was subsequently elevated to chair of the Fed by President Trump in 2018, and then renominated to his post by President Biden in 2021. He has the respect of members of both parties, and I believe that no one, as Fed chair, has ever had to deal with more and varied challenging issues than Chair Powell has had to deal with. From the pandemic to fighting inflation to bank runs and on, his leadership at the Fed has been a steady hand and one of the all-time greats. Before coming to the Fed, Chair Powell was a visiting scholar at the Bipartisan Policy Center in Washington, D.C. He first entered public service at the Treasury Department under President George H.W. Bush, with responsibility for financial institutions, the Treasury debt market, related areas. Outside of public service, Chair Powell has worked as a lawyer, an investment banker, and been a partner at the Carlyle Group. In addition to his service on corporate boards, he served on boards of charitable and educational institutions, including the Bendham Center for Finance at Princeton and the Nature Conservancy of Washington, D.C. and Maryland. He is a D.C. native, received a BA in politics from Princeton and a law degree from Georgetown University, where he was editor of the Georgetown Law Journal. Please welcome to the Economic Club of Chicago again, Chair Jerome Powell.
Così. Interactività.
Tu l'as au début, là?
Ouais, moi, le début, là. Mo kiti ka avila. Nalpejak mo ni kosi show.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Ewe,
It's great to be back in Chicago. And thanks for that kind introduction,
ako ni man.
Austin.
Non, mais attends. Moi, j'étais à
My conversation with
Parce que
Professor Raghu. But first, I'll briefly discuss the outlook for the economy and monetary policy. So, at the Fed, we are always focused on the dual mandate goals that Congress has given us: maximum employment and stable prices. Despite heightened uncertainty and downside risks, the U.S. economy is still in a solid position. The labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but is still running a bit above our 2% objective. Turning briefly to the incoming data, we'll get the initial reading on first quarter GDP in a couple of weeks. The data we have in hand so far suggests that growth has slowed in the first quarter of this year from last year's solid pace. Despite strong motor vehicle sales, overall consumer spending appears to have grown modestly. In addition, strong imports during the first quarter, reflecting attempts by businesses to get ahead of potential tariffs, are expected to weigh on GDP growth. Surveys of households and businesses report a sharp decline in sentiment and elevated uncertainty about the outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. Outside forecasts for the full year are coming down, and for the most part, point to continued slowing, but still positive growth. We are closely tracking incoming data as households and businesses continue to digest these developments. In the labor market, during the first 3 months of this year, non-farm payrolls grew by an average of 150,000 jobs per month. While job growth has slowed relative to last year, the combination of low layoffs and lower labor force growth has kept the unemployment rate in a low and stable range. Meanwhile, the ratio of job openings to unemployed job seekers has remained just above 1, near its pre-pandemic level. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, the labor market appears to be in solid condition and broadly in balance, and is not a significant source of inflationary pressure. As for our price stability mandate, inflation has significantly eased from its pandemic highs of mid-2022 without the kind of painful rise in unemployment that has frequently accompanied efforts to bring down high inflation. Progress on inflation continues at a gradual pace, and recent readings remain above our 2% objective. Estimates based on the most recent data from last week show that total headline PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in March, and that excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core prices rose 2.6%. Looking ahead, looking forward, the new administration is in the process of implementing substantial policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. These policies are still evolving, and their effects on the economy remain highly uncertain. As we learn more, we will continue to update our assessment. The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Both survey and market-based measures of near-term inflation expectations have moved up significantly, with survey participants pointing to tariffs. Survey measures of longer-term inflation expectations, for the most part, appear to remain well anchored as well. Market-based break-evens continue to run close to 2%. So, as we gain a better understanding of the policy changes, we'll have a better sense of the implications for the economy and hence for monetary policy. Tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation. The inflationary effects could also be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully to prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to make certain that a one-time increase in the price level does not become an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potential time horizons over which those respective gaps would be to close. That great Chicagoan. Life moves pretty fast. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our
Normalement, si les casse ça niveau-là, la carrière. Eh, moi, joli niveau. Roméo fait la fête, là. Roméo fait la fête, là, man. Nice.
Et Roméo a fait entrer ça maintenant.
Ouais. Il y a péton qu'il
Un joli trade. Des
Ouais.
rentrées.
Ouais. Quand on va t'abonner, on verra ça. Moi, je fais ça niveau ici, là, moi. Tu rentres ici, toi. Tu rentres ici, tu rentres ici. Moi, je fais ici, là.
Les remontes, non, les remontes pour la bonne porte de Jeanne, là, où on va dire ça.
Ouais.
C'est mon ça.
Parce que ça, sur celle-ci, bon, c'est bon. Sur celle-ci, là, sur celle-ci, bon.
Non, il y a une bourse sur celle-là, elle reste pareil.
C'est pareil.
C'est pareil.
Celle de mal mettait le 34. Moi, celle du 34, lui.
Non, là,
moi, le 33.
Ouais, là, moi, je mettais là où a swing low qui est là, ici, là, moi. Mais là, quand prix là, finit crash à niveau, là, je bouge celle-là, je mettais là pour ici. Mais nice,
parce que prends ça là, à la misère, combien de pips, c'est là?
Avait dire, ice range. De là, jusqu'à là.
Ouais. Aster prend là, pour te venir l'eau, ça veut dire que tu close ça. 33, 28.
33,28. On le pied là pour mettre 33,28. 33,28. Nice, there.
C'est-à-dire, là-bas, tu as 60 pips, ici, tu as 50 pips.
Joli, hein? Joli, joli. Nice. Very nice. Moi, quand il y a encore que j'ai pas qu'à faire confiance, ça, frère. Il danse un bouc dans hein. Mais ouais, very nice.
Non, quand il causait, après, get un peu en zone.
Ouais, parce que c'est opening
Pas
là.
tant qu'il commence à causer, là, voilà, pas tant
Ouais,
qu'il
ouais.
commence à causer, là, tu rentres d'autres là, non. Quand
Mhm.
tu trouves les périacs, là, ban qui level, tu es rentrer.
Entrer.
Voilà, rentrer.
Il peut le casser à niveau là aussi, hein. Casse à niveau
Tu
en bas
fais
là.
tu fais un in and out, ça vite, vite.
Ouais,
Rentrer sur.
Non, non, tu laisses battre, mon pas laisser battre, il pas bien descendre.
ouais, une
Ouais, mais
descente.
dans 2 minutes, man, in and out, vite, vite, ça.
Ouais, there. Je vais être cool, couillon. Bah, la paix Marie sous là. Je vais être. Ouais. Et de machine, t'en as, je mets. Moi, uniquement calcul has le là, c'est jamais un trade goal au fait. Bah, combien le. Son unit, combien le ha? Tu connais, non?
Faut pas calculer comme ça, moi. En fait, moi, le mot broker. Le
Ah
mot
ouais.
broker, il de moi 0.01,
Ouais.
il de moi à peu près 5 dollars pitcheuse.
En fait,
Mhm.
ouvert new tab, là.
New tab.
Ouais,
Ouais.
ouvert new tab. Écrit FX calculator.
FX calculator. Ouais.
Pour problème, problème.
Goal. OK. Il a dit. Tu fais quand tu mets dans la carte, ça, je passe 5 000 $ live. Et là, que tu mets ici. Tu pips. Ah, OK, OK.
Swap with money. De gars mettre swap with money.
Ouais. Et tu peux te mettre 100 $. Tu parlais de te mettre 150 $ margin. Stop loss, je te dis te mettre 100. Tu mets 100 $. Stop loss.
Non, il y a un pips, ça place en pips.
Ah, comme. Tu stop loss, combien de pips c'était night?
Ben là, bon, ça là, moi, je mettais un peu plus même.
Combien c'était?
Nous pas un mot.
Tu vas avec une profit, tu vas avec une
Et
position.
Position, position.
Position, là, tu gagnes position, là. Là, tu as
pour 20,
calculé
pour
ton
20
profit.
pips, pour 20 pips là, pareil,
Un pips. Un
20
calcul.
pips.
Ah, tu mets 7 là, non? Non, combien margin, combien tu le
Non.
mettais?
Ça veut dire,
Le
moi,
mo-
on a 1200 $. En termes d'argent, moi, on a 1200 $. Moi, l'entrée, c'est 1200 $. Non, à
Non,
43
Non,
ans.
à quand ça,
En bas,
5
là, tu besoin mettre
000,
1000. En
1200
bas, tu
ici.
besoin mettre 1200.
1200.
Voilà, 1200. Il y
Ah,
a eu de moi des loups.
des loups.
Pas bon, pas bon,
c'est ça qui est pas bon.
pas
Et
bon.
celle-là
Parce
qui
que,
est pas bon.
non, au fait, toi, moi, explique-toi. Il y a chaque broker, son prix l'eau, pas pareil.
Ah,
Tu peux comprendre?
ouais, ouais, ouais. Eh, mais
Après, il y a
Marina,
des
ça.
affaires qui sont là.
Ok.
Il y a des affaires qui sont là. De leverage.
Ouais, tu le regardes. Eh, c'est moi, ouais. Well done, man. Well done. Je vais trade. C'est moi, moi, franchement, à cause de ma guerre.
Expected, and
Mais
companies will
là, il y a une décision. En plus, ça, non, on est si, papi. Ouais. Bon,
C'est Loki, tu étais une minute.
une minute, mais tu vois.
Allez, alors 5 minutes.
Ouais.
Pas expenditure.
On peut comparer, tiens.
Baisse un petit peu en bas. Baisse un petit
Ouais.
peu en bas. Allez, chambre. Là, à ce qui peut arriver là, prix pour jouer comme ça et que ça.
Ouais, ouais,
Il
il
va
vient
me
de
descendre en
prendre.
bas, ça là.
Non, les push stop, là,
Les-
ici. Définitivement, les push
Right?
stop. Ouais.
Soit il fait ça, il remonte, soit il casse ça, il pull back, là, il descend.
Ouais,
C'est des options là.
ouais, mais il n'est pas.
À part de ça, il y en a un.
Avant les casses, c'est difficile, c'est moi. Rajoute, je me suis moqué, bonheur. Hein. Un peu difficile avant les casses, ça. Ah, ici, là. Mais, ouais, nice. Et well done, ça, man. Goal, là.
Là, tu prends un joli buy à partir. Si il redescend capable demain, c'est pas la fin de la semaine,
Mhm.
33,00. Pas avec le monter toi demain.
33,00.
On va net ça.